Okay, are you up for some photo touch-up, some photo restoration and cleanup? This is usually an area of Photoshop that a lot of people are interested in, and I've got a lot of cool techniques and a few cool tricks to show you along the way here. We're going to get started in this exercise with a discussion on removing red eye. And, this is really an issue that comes up a lot, especially for what I would call home users. People taking photos of family members in casual situations or maybe weddings or, this sort of thing, birthday parties. And red eye is a big deal. If you don't know, red eye is caused when the camera's flash bounces off the back of the retina and back into the camera lens. And, camera manufacturers have wrestled with this. They've tried creating, I'm sure you've seen this, cameras that have the two flashes, and it's kind of a pain in the neck. Well, I think you're really going to love this red eye removal tool inside Photoshop because it basically gets rid of all that stuff and just makes the process of removing red eye very, very easy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit Shift-Tab to get rid of my palettes on the right-hand side. We don't need them. And let's go and grab our sample files. So as always, I'll double click on my gray background. And inside our project files, we have a file called redeye.jpg. Go ahead and grab that fella and open them up. You might want to zoom in just a little bit on our photo here. This is, again, a typical photo, sort of a casual setting. In this case, it's a kitchen countertop. And this little fella has some red eye happening in there, of course. And the whole idea is we want to, of course, get rid of the red eye. So you might want to zoom in super close or, fairly close. And as I say, I think you're really going to like this red eye tool. He's buried inside Photoshop's toolbox. Head over to the toolbox and look for a tool called the Spot Healing Brush tool. This guy right here, he's just below the eyedropper tool. Click and hold on that and you'll get this huge flyout. And of course, there's our red eye tool. Okay, so make sure you grab your red eye tool. Now, you know what's crazy about the red eye tool is it just works. And a lot of people, myself included, don't even really understand how it works. It just works. So check this out. I'm going to start on the left eye here, and all I'm going to do is click in the sort of the center of the eye there, the retina, single click, and that's it. Photoshop does its thing and fills it in there with solid black. And then I'll move over to the other eye over on the right side of the photo, single click. That's it. So if I zoom out, he's perfect. That's all there is to it. That's pretty much it. Now, I will show you a couple of other things, though. What I'm going to do is I'm going to revert back to the last time that we saved. I could head to the File menu and choose Revert, or, of course, just hit F12 on my keyboard, which is what I just did. I'll zoom in on our fella here one more time. And there are some options up on the options bar here. If I get rid of that little tooltip there, we have pupil size and darken amount. You can fiddle with these if you want, but again, right out of the box, the tool seems to work. Single click inside the retina there, or, you can click and drag a box around the retina. Some people do that, but as you can see, it doesn't do as good a job there, does it? I mean, just single clicking was perfect, wasn't it? So it's not really working here for me. Now, another way to get rid of the red eye, and again, this is just so simple and it's kind of crazy, is I could actually click anywhere on the iris as well, and that seems to do just as good a job as clicking right on the pupil there or right on the retina. In fact, I've even experimented with this. I'm going, this is crazy. I can practically click anywhere, and the tool is smart enough to know what I'm after. I've even tried clicking on the sort of the whites of the eye, and okay, it didn't work that time, but sometimes it actually does work. There it goes. It worked on the right side of the photo there. So it's kind of bananas. It's one of those tools that just seems to work there. So have lots of fun with that guy. I just reverted one more time just by hitting F12. And again, just a matter of coming in here, single click on each eye. Hopefully the people in your photos have no more than two eyes. And that's all there is to it. Save the image up, and that's how to get rid of red eye in Photoshop. Okay, now next up, let's have a look at the touch-up tool that is probably the most popular tool inside Photoshop and arguably made Photoshop a household name. He's called the Clone Stamp tool. I call him the Rubber Stamp tool. And this is the tool that'll let you put 2 heads on your dog or 18 tires on your car, all that kind of crazy, fun, goofy photo manipulation stuff. But what I'm going to do is, rather than doing something kind of crazy and goofy, I'll leave that up to you. What I'm going to try and do is, I'm actually going to try and use this tool to correct a photo, to try and take out some blemishes inside a photo. And it's going to be kind of a simple blemish, but it'll give you a good example of how this tool works. So, as always, let's double click on the gray background into our project files and go ahead and open up a file called retouch1.jpg. Okay, wonderful. I'll hit Shift Tab on my keyboard to get rid of my palettes over on the right-hand side. And let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit on our photo. Of course, it's a photo of a lovely path through the forest. This is actually behind my house, which is kind of fun to take the kids out there. But the path is marked with these sort of spray painted marks on the trees, which is good, I guess, so we won't get lost, but it's kind of a blemish on the photo, isn't it? It's kind of a nice photo except for that nasty spray paint there. So what I want to try and do is remove the spray paint as best I can and essentially cover it up with tree bark. And that's what this clone stamp tool, or this rubber stamp tool, is going to let us do, is essentially clone part of the image on top of another part of the image. So, over inside the toolbox, I'm going to go and grab the clone stamp tool, or the rubber stamp tool as I lovingly call it. And again, it's a brush-based tool, so I can use my square bracket keys on my keyboard to increase and decrease the size of the brush. So, for something like this white stripe, maybe something a little bit larger, something like that is really what I'm after. Now, here's how it works. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my cursor over top of an area of the image that I want to sample from, or that I want to clone from, right? So I want to try and duplicate this area here over top of the white area. So what I'm going to do to indicate to Photoshop that I want to sample this area is I'm going to hold down Option or Alt over on the PC side. And of course, my cursor changes to a target, to almost like a crosshair there. Single click to set that target. And then now, as I move my cursor around on my image, I get this little preview. You can see I have tree bark inside my cursor now as I move it around. And then essentially what I'm going to do is paint with tree bark over top of that white blemish, something like this, right? Now, what's really cool is as I'm painting over top of the white blemish, you can see back over the area that I sampled, I have a crosshair there, so it's telling me where I'm copying from. You know, I don't want to get too close to the edge of the tree, otherwise I'll start sampling leaves and things like this. That's no good, right? So I'm just going to undo that. So that's really the idea there. It's really, really straightforward. Let's do this one more time here. I'm just going to move my image down here. Maybe I'll sample from this area here and I'll copy it onto the red splotch there, the red splotch of paint. So once again, what I'll do is I'll hold down Option or Alt on the PC, single click, and then once again bring my cursor over top of the area that I want to correct. Now, you know, this could be anything. This could be spray paint on a tree trunk. It could be skin blemishes. It could be cracks on pavement, oil drips, all kinds of stuff, right? Again, you're really only limited by your imagination and the nastiness of some of the photos that you might be trying to clean up. There we go, something like that. I think that looks all right. Now, of course, the acid test is to zoom out just a little bit and make sure that your image looks decent. You don't want to have any trails or any sort of tiling or anything like this. This looks okay, although it does look a little bit patterned there a little bit. I might do a little bit more work on this, but that anyway is the basic idea here in terms of working with the clone stamp tool inside Photoshop. There's a new command, a new option inside Photoshop CS5 that everybody's talking about. It's called Content Aware Fill. And essentially what it'll allow us to do is take an object or take an area and have it fill in with the background. Imagine having a car inside a field and being able to pull that car off of the field and having the area that's left over, essentially the hole that's left where the car is, automatically fill in with grass from the field. It's literally that easy. It's amazing. That's why everybody's talking about it. So what I did here, just before I hit record, is I reverted my file back. So I hit F12 on my keyboard, or of course File and then Revert. So I'm all the way back to the spray paint on the tree bark. You know, the result that I got with the clone stamp tool was decent. It was pretty good, but I want to see if I can get an even better result. So of course, I'm going to try using this content-aware fill on my blemish here inside my photo. So here's what I'm going to do, and it's really, really easy to work with. What I want to do is I want to select this area, this spray-painted area on the tree. And you can use whatever selection tools you want. You don't even have to be that precise about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my lasso tool out of the toolbox, and I'm just going to kind of freehand a selection rather quickly and, not very precisely all the way around the spray paint. Something like this. That's literally all there is to it. And then I essentially want to fill this area with content from the surrounding area. So to do so, I'm going to head up to the edit menu and then simply down to fill. So edit fill, and then inside the fill dialog box that shows up, I can set my use menu to the foreground color or the background color or to black or to white or gray or whatever, or the default content aware. And that, of course, is the guy that we're after here. So make sure you're set to content aware and then click on OK. Photoshop thinks about it for a minute and then does the job. It fills everything in. So it kind of churns for a moment and then fills in your area with content from, again, the surrounding area. Let's deselect and see what we got here. Command D or Control D. That looks rather impressive. I'm actually quite amazed at that. That looks really, really good. If I zoom out here, you can't even tell that that was there. Pretty amazing, pretty awesome. Okay, let's try something perhaps a little bit more complex. I'm going to close out of this file here, Command W or Control W there on the PC side, and I'm not going to bother saving this file. And I'm going to go and grab another file. This guy's called Retouch2. Go ahead and grab him out of your project files. This is on the same trail out behind my house, and here we have, they put up these little signs here, so I guess so nobody gets lost. But anyway, so what I want to do is I want to get rid of this sign. Get rid of it completely out of the photo, because once again, it's a rather nice photo other than the big gnarly looking sign. So once again, what I'm going to do is very simply, I'm just going to freehand a loose selection all the way around this fella, just something like this here. And what I found, by the way, just while I'm doing this, is while I've been using the content-aware fill, sometimes it works beautifully, like we just saw on the tree bark. Other times, it doesn't work at all. And then sometimes it kind of gives you like a partial fill that you might have to still fiddle with, you might have to still work with, but at least it gets you started, right? In any regard, there's my selection, my marching ants. I'm going to head back to the image menu, or I'm sorry, the edit menu, and then down to fill, and there's your shortcut if you want it there, Shift F5 if you wish. Of course, my use menu is still set to content aware. Go ahead and click on OK. Let's wait for Photoshop here and see the results that we get. Go ahead and deselect, Command D or Control D. Looks like it filled in some of the area here with tree bark rather than, leaves. You can almost see that line there, and also between the two trees there as well. Let's zoom out and see how this looks. Well, it's not bad. If I zoom all the way out, unless you were looking for it, it looks like that's just part of this sort of tree trunk that's behind the leaves there. But what I could do is I could zoom in nice and close, and I might even be able to get in there with the rubber stamp and kind of clean that up a little bit, just so it's not such a hard edge there across the top. But again, a fairly decent result, a fairly nice looking result there. Again, it's all about content aware fill in Photoshop CS5.